So the first really grand person that Alice meets is the Duchess. So she has a title, she doesn't have a name. She's really quite scary to look at. You can see that, she is not a particularly approachable kind of character. She's not somebody that you would necessarily want to hug you. And when in her interactions with Alice, she tends to be incredibly rude and unpleasant, and she is definitely not an approachable character. So it's kind of understandable that the White Rabbit is so completely terrified of this character. This now sort of makes sense. All of his bustle and terror, we are starting with Alice to understand at this point. Probably the scariest thing about the Duchess is the song that she sings to her baby. So what the Duchess does is to take an existing lullaby, which is a song that's designed to calm a baby. So this existing lullaby was all about talking nicely to other people, how it was important to be pleasant to them. And the Duchess takes this song and essentially turns it on its head. So the song that she sings is all about basically whacking children and speaking to them as unpleasantly as possible. And she kind of underlines or underscores the content of what she's singing by, at the end of every line, throwing her baby into the air and also giving it a violent shake. So it's exactly the kind of topsy-turvy, turning things on its head, which tends to characterise the land that Alice is travelling through, Wonderland, and gives us a sense of how just completely absurd and also slightly sinister this world can be. If we take the song and how scary that is, and its effect that it has actually on the baby, if we combine that with the howling of the baby and the sneezing that's happening because of the amount of pepper that's in the soup that the cook is producing in the Duchess's kitchen, then all of these things together make for one of the noisiest places of all of the places that Alice visits in Wonderland. There's a lot of kind of quite dark things happening between the sounds that are being made and the kind of things that are being said, and this sort of sense of everything being really quite on its head and topsy-turvy and unusual and quite threatening. It's the Duchess who is the first to issue a threat of execution, to cry off with her head, a long time before the Queen of Hearts, in fact. And it shows that they have a sort of similarity, that there's these women in the court who are kind of powerful and they're prone to, or they have a kind of inclination to like sort of issuing these really quite scary and sort of murderous threats to the characters that they encounter. Because Alice, she hasn't done anything at this point. She has simply mentioned the word axis, as in the thing that the world turns around on. And the Duchess thinks that she said the word axes, as in the thing that you use to chop people's heads off. And then this sort of gives her the idea that it would be quite a good idea to chop Alice's head off. And Alice has really not done anything particularly sinister by this point.